The world is very ancient, and human origins are mysterious and obscure. We try to decipher our past based upon the multiple layers of civilizations whose ruins lay strewn across the planet like pieces of an archaic jigsaw puzzle. Some of these old civilizations are still buried beneath the deserts, mountains, and oceans, awaiting a time when they will yield their secrets through human discovery or natural cataclysms that will strip away and reveal their hidden locations. In the unique perspective on history that will be explored in this series, the case for a vaster chronological perspective of history will be investigated based upon ancient sources hitherto unrecognized by the majority. Part of the intention of the Hidden History of Humanity series is to present a chronological sequence of history that demonstrates the evolution of consciousness by humanity, the mystery of when the human soul came into existence and its purpose. This first series will establish a broad structure of understanding for the future series that will elaborate further. Evolution will be traced from before the human race appeared through the stages of the Lemurian, Atlantean, and current root races. It will finish with contemporary humanity that is now transitioning into the sixth root race. It will discuss the evolution that will unfold in the future, always in the context of what has transpired. It has been said that unless we understand our history, then we are condemned to repeat the mistakes of the past. On the scientific side, several key areas will be explored in this history of the root races, such as geology, geography, astronomy, archaeology, and anthropology. From the religious angle, some of the most ancient works will be referenced: the Hindu, Jewish, Persian, Islamic, Buddhist, Gnostic, Celtic, and Christian traditions. Investigating the hidden history of the world means that we must return to discover the birth of the solar system, of which our Earth is but one participant. Stupendous questions will be explored as to how this solar system came into existence with its subsequent planetary schemes, chains, rounds, and globes.
Modern science insists upon the doctrine of evolution. So does human reason and the secret doctrine. The idea is corroborated in ancient legends and myths, and even by the Bible when it is interpreted esoterically. We see a bud slowly developing from a seed and a flower from the bud. But what of the seed with its predetermined program of physical transformation? What about the invisible, therefore spiritual forces which gradually develop its form, color, and perfume?
Humanity has required eons for physical and mental development to evolve into its relatively sophisticated modern state. What do you think? Have you ever wondered just how long it has taken human evolution to unfold? Have you accepted what you were told at school or believed what adamant biblical scholars have declared? Or have you gone along with modern science's authority? How can we consider a longer time frame for history which ultimately conceals the greatest puzzles of existence and the mystery of the human soul? History, with its many evidences of past civilizations, is in a tangled and confused state. Humanity's approach to our past has imposed upon itself the limitations of dogmatic science and theology, ignoring the ancient traditions that hold the keys to many of these riddles. We live in a time of the approaching astronomical cycle of Aquarius, where the ancient mysteries will be reinstated after thousands of years of being hidden from the eyes and ears of the profane. Humanity stands at the doorway of initiation into the mysteries of history and higher consciousness. There are many isolated strands in history that can be drawn together. There are many facts that can be collated, especially those corroborated by direct as well as inferential evidence found in ancient literature and history.
Pliny, the ancient Roman historian, writes that Epigenes attests to the fact that the Chaldeans preserved astronomical observations in inscriptions upon brick tiles extending to a period of 720,000 years. The Neoplatonist philosopher Simplicius, who lived in the 6th century AD, wrote that the Egyptians had kept astronomical observations and records for the past 630,000 years.
The genesis of the Egyptians and Mayans is very ancient, no less than 860,000 years ago. Both groups came from a now sunken part of southern India, the ancient Tamil Nadu, of which Sri Lanka is the remnant. They traveled at the time of the Second Atlantean submersion, finding their way to Ethiopia and Guatemala respectively. Hence the similarity of their esoteric knowledge, rituals, architecture, art, pyramids, astronomy, customs, etc., not only with one another, but also with Mother India. The Hindu subrace is the foundation of all the Western races, most of whose languages can be traced back to their root stem, Sanskrit. The succeeding subraces emerged in roughly 200,000-year intervals. Much of this ancient literature is contained within the Hindu Puranas, the Upanishads, the Rig Veda, the Mahabharata, and the Ramayana. This is logical, for the Hindu tradition is the oldest of our current races. The Hindu story of the Mahabharata, of which the Bhagavad Gita is the golden kernel, recalls the first major conflict in Atlantis, where the forces of materialism were ranged against the forces of light. The sons of King Pandu were the emerging initiates of the next race. Arjuna is one of the well-known characters who worked closely with Krishna. Likewise, in the Egyptian tradition, all the lists of past kings were recorded carefully, documenting races and subraces reaching right back into ancient Atlantean and Lemurian history. The most recent references to our current fifth root race also come to us from the Old Testament, where the history of all the human races is contained in the first 6 chapters of Genesis. Genesis, from chapter 4, verse 16, through to the end of the 5th chapter, gives purely historical facts, taken word for word from the secret book of Numbers in the Great Oriental Kabbalah. Much of this will also be explored in this series.
Whenever the history of the universal flood is told, the story of Noah is not very far away. No matter what tradition or by what name he is called, Nuha in the Hindu tradition or Noki in the Andean civilizations, Noah's story is allegorical, deeply symbolic, and literal. The story of the animals boarding the ark 2 by 2 is literal, no doubt, but also an allegory for the scattered remnants of humanity. They were so recalcitrant in their old ways that, in the words of one adept, they were salvaged in spite of themselves. Yet all of these events happen within naturally occurring cycles. Experiencing the universe as an organic and rhythmically moving cosmos, the Hindus were able to develop evolutionary cosmologies which come very close to our modern scientific models. The word evolution speaks for itself. The origin of the present human race pre-existed in its parent race as a seed, in which lies hidden the flower of the next race. The ancestors of the present elephant and lizard may have been the mammoth and the plesiosaurus. Why should not the originators of our human race have been the giants described in the ancient Hindu Vedas or the Book of Genesis?
The ancient Greek tradition was also a repository of the ageless wisdom, encoded throughout its wonderful and deeply evocative mythology. The Greek allegories give to Atlas 7 daughters, representing the 7 subraces of Atlantis. These daughters are the mothers of famous heroes, the founders of many nations and cities. Astronomically, Atlas's daughters are the 7 Pleiades. The two are connected with nations whose destinies are shaped by the past events of their early lives according to universal karmic law. In the Greek tradition, the root races are divided into the Golden, Silver, Bronze, and Iron Ages, and have an identical correspondence to the Hindu Yuga cycles, such as the Kali and Satya Yugas. The 3 one-eyed giants of Greek mythology are a reference to the last subraces of the Lemurian root race. Hence, we can see the sources of the ageless wisdom or perennial philosophy that lay hid in universal mythology and religion. The same or similar stories are told in all cultures, indicating the consistency and veracity of these ancient stories within the collective consciousness of humanity.
Why have the Mayans come to assume such prominence in popular thought in the past 50 years? We have been told that there will be an alignment with the galactic center in 2012. Yet the approaching date of 2012 is the end and beginning of 2 26,000-year precession cycles. This will be taking place in Aquarius on the Greater Wheel, coinciding with the more well-known 2,160-year cycle in Aquarius on the Lesser Wheel.
The Mayans' ancient base in Guatemala and the consciousness that was generated there is a bridge between North America with its synthesized European consciousness and the future 6th root race in South America. Hence, a full circle cycle approaches, where the focus of this planetary crown chakra we call Shambhala will shift to South America once more to oversee the evolution of the new root race starting in around 25,000 years. Revitalizing the truths of this existing paradigm of the science of cycles is another purpose of the Hidden History of Humanity project. It is an inherent part of the ancient wisdom of several cultures, part of our racial memory that we can all intuitively tap into, recognize, and understand. The possibility of discovering and understanding the origin of the human soul and its divine pedigree is imminent in our time. We stand before a doorway leading to planetary illumination upon the greatest mysteries of life, the hidden history of humanity.